hate speeches. All right. So good evening, Toastmasters and honorable guests.
Good evening.
Thank you. I'm Annie. As she's already introduced me, I don't have much. I just have simple things. I've been in Dubai or in UAE for over 2 decades. I'm married to my husband, Marman, who works with Mapai, who is in the construction chemicals industry. I have 2 wonderful kids. One is 20, completed his 2nd year in mechanical engineering. The youngest is 15, going to year 12 in September. I have joined an events and exhibitions company recently after a 10-year career break. So I am really busy at the moment, but happy to be here. Now that is the formal introduction. Now let's go back. My personal introduction, if someone keeps asking me, would you describe yourself in a sentence? I would say, I'm still finding out who I am. But one thing I can tell you for sure is my passion for driving. I have driven everything from gearless bikes, geared bikes, cars, trucks. I am happy driving. I can drive for as long as, and if I'm really sleepy, I'll sleep even on the road in my car, but I will continue driving. Now, I was born and raised in Kuwait, but at the age of 16, we returned back to Kerala, and that's where my passion for riding began. At that time, in the 1990s, you could get a gearless bike license at the age of 16. I think it's because of that, seeing how enthusiastic I was about driving. I was the only girl in the road who could ride a bike. I think the officials were just staring at me and they said, I don't think this is a good idea. So later on they moved it to 18. So now you can only get a license at the age of 18. Well, that's one part of it. And then, there is a junction, like if you look at the roads in Kerala, especially my spaces, it's all up and down. So if my house is down the hill, but you have to come up to reach the main road. And in those days, you don't have traffic lights. You have a policeman standing on top of a pedestal, and then he just directs the traffic. And because he's standing on a pedestal and I'm coming up the slope, he can see me and he does this. I'm like, why is he across at the moment? And then I realized that probably he likes my driving. But I think, honestly, I think he's just trying to make sure that everybody else is safe and I can just pass through. But anyway, so that's my riding history. But every time, and at that time, I think I'm 16, and my weight must be around 40, and the bike is maybe, heavier than that. So falling was like an everyday thing. Broken ankles, scraped knees, you name it, the bike or the broken, I just have to push the bike at the end to the workshop, drop it there, come back home by bus and pick it up the next day and ride again. So my neighbors always, they were so sure. Each time I fell, they would write it off saying, now she's going to stop riding. But I'm back on my bike again. So every time they meet my mother, they used to ask her, aren't you afraid that she's not going to come home the next day? Like, just be off. And she's like, there is nothing much for me to be afraid of because I'm not the one who's taking care of her. It's my prayers and the Lord above. And that faith has always remained with me because she's amazing in that way. So a few years later, during COVID, now mind you, I have a gearless bike license. I can't ride a geared bike. So during COVID, I'm going crazy. 2 kids at home doing homeschooling. And I've got 3 dogs at that time in India, and they're all running around. You can't go out for a walk. I decide I need a geared bike license. So I go put myself in school, and he shows me the bike, puts in first gear and tells me to take a round. I take a round, and then he looks at me, and then he looks at the geared bike, and then he shows me how the gears move. I'm like, okay. And then the next day he tells me, you're ready. I'm like, huh? And he says, take the bike down 4 kilometers down the road, take a U-turn and come back. I'm like, alone? And he's like, yes. And then I'm like, what if the police catches me? He said, call me. And I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yes. What if I fall? You won't fall. He was so sure. He has more faith in me than I have in myself, I guess. So finally he said, put gear, and I went off. I went 4 kilometers down the lane, took a U-turn, actually went further than that and came back. And that is when I realized, there is something called fear in everyone, but you can always overcome fear. It always whispers, what if I fail? What if you can't do that? You're not going to be able to do that. But I believe now that in everything that I'm doing, these questions are always going to come up. But as you move ahead in life, it's not the fearless part of you that's going to move ahead in life. It's the part where you can overcome fear. So the main concept or the main thing when it comes to my career, when it comes to my life itself, when it comes to me standing here tonight, I think it's all about taking the first step. And that's why I think we should all be taking a first step every day of our life, every second of our life. Otherwise, you don't know what you're going to lose out on. So I think that's it. And I believe the solidarity here is going to help me move on in life. Thank you very much. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Enjoy.